Journey of a Thousand Smiles is brought to you in part by Nature's Answer. Discover Nature's Answer and trust the difference.
Welcome to Journey of a Thousand Smiles. I'm Dr. Gene. On today's show, we'll discuss health and how it's all connected. How you eat and how you care for your body affects all areas of your life. We'll be talking to a chiropractor and a chef who lost over 200 pounds. And we'll take a look at a new blood pressure monitoring system that has some features that are unlike any other system. It all comes up next on Journey of a Thousand Smiles. Welcome back to A Journey of a Thousand Smiles. I'm here with Dr. Rick Statler. Rick, nice to see you.
Thank you.
The whole premise of the show, what we're doing is talking about overall health. As a dentist, I get to see not only people's teeth, but I have a good understanding of their health and well-being just from an awareness of how they present. And I know that from your perspective, it's the same. I want to hear your story as a chiropractor.
Dr. Gene, when you and I were younger and we were in school, we learned about the muscular system and we learned about the skeletal system. We learned about the nerve system. But today's children aren't learning that because today it's the neuromuscular skeletal system. They're realizing that these are integral, that one works together with the other. We had the endocrine system and we had the immune system, but now it's the neuroimmune system. It's the neuroendocrine system that everything is connected, and in this case I'm citing the nerve system is an interconnecting piece of that.
How does that, maybe my poor posture, how does that affect the flow of information from one part of my body to another? How would that affect my overall health?
Okay, so now we're going to speak more chiropractically in that we have, like sitting next to you, a spine. And in that spine, we have a nerve system and a spinal cord. And branching off like lights around a Christmas tree, we have nerves that go to every organ, cell, and tissue in our body. And if we should be twisted or distorted, compressed, we can irritate, shut off, hyperexcite that nerve flow. That nerve flow is like the electric power. It powers our body. And like a dimmer switch, a rheostat, we might have it where it's dimmed and we don't have full function or full capacity in a electrical instrument that could burn out the motor, that could burn out our organs. We can have it unregulated where it may blow the fuse and overload a system. So distorted posture, traumas, injuries can cause the body to start to hold and maintain that distortion. And a chiropractor's role is to bring that body into a much better balance where there's a greater flow coming through that nerve system and therefore greater health, function, and vitality.
So tell me, at what age would you recommend that a child come for their first chiropractic visit?
I'm even going to get a little philosophical on this one. If I had to adjust somebody only one time in their lifetime, it would be as close to birth as possible so that we can set that spine as aligned as possible from that point forward.
Explain that a little more. Right.
Sure. Birth itself, even an uncomplicated birth,
A little traumatic.
can be a stressful event, yes, and very easy for a spine to become distorted. And so by making that first alignment, that first adjustment, as close to birth as possible, we're setting that child on a path that will serve them, to maintain that. Because we develop habit patterns, we develop holding patterns. If we come out and we are twisted and we hold that, after a while, ligaments are going to shorten on one side, lengthen on another. Muscles are going to shorten on one side, lengthen on the other. That becomes our normal hold. So if we can start somebody out in a more precise alignment, they're going to, be better served.
One of the areas that I, as a dentist, have I cross over with chiropractors on a regular basis is in dealing with the temporomandibular joints, or TMJ, as people know it. Well, a patient, and there are numerous factors, and there's some people that look at it it's only a tooth-to-tooth problem, it's a bite problem. Other people look at it that it's a traumatic injury.
So this is the jaw joint that we're talking about right here, the TMJ, temporomandibular joint. It's the jaw, it's a hinge joint that allows this jaw to open and close. And in our body, instead of having springs, we have muscles, internal pterygoid muscles, muscles that control this. And when these muscles are tighter on one side than the other, it can actually shift that jaw. It can cause the jaw to open up unevenly, cause popping on one side, tightness and jamming on the other. So chiropractically, by working even some internal and external adjustments on these muscles, the muscles that come from the neck that attach along the underside of the jaw here, the cranial muscles and attachments here, by doing that and bringing that into alignment, we're going to get much better dental work, much better dental castings. In my practice, what we do, Dr. Gene, is before anyone has any kind of appliance or fitting or casting, they're going to get adjusted and go straight to that dental office. So the TMJ is a tremendously overlapped area. We have another aspect. You had mentioned auto accidents, and if you'd pass that to me, thank you. When we look at the spine from the side, there's actually an S-shaped curve. When we look at it straight on, it should be straight like my tie. When it's not, that's the word called scoliosis. So we have the straightness from the front, but from the side, we have these curves that are very important. They allow the shock absorption function of the body. When we have a whiplash, it straightens that neck curve. That neck is not curved. The head is forward displaced. It's like a bowling ball being held. There's more tension into the muscles. They support the TMJ. But more significant is that this curve that should be here is actually the opposite curve of the jaw joint. And much like the mechanism in a clock, a watch, that ticks like this, or the old oil wells, these have to be balanced. And so the curve of the neck is the same arc curve as the curve of the jaw swing. And when this curve is altered, it actually puts tension into the jaw joint glide. And so by working to restore a cervical curve, we actually help the TMJ problems.
I understand.
In the same vein, bulging discs, herniated discs, degenerated discs, all those words fit in there. Basically, between each of our bones in the spine is a disc, a cushion pad. For an auto mechanic, it's a bushing between the frame of the car and the body of the car. It provides cushioning and provides space. Let me just move to here. It provides space so that the nerve can have free range to move and to exit. And what happens is through trauma, lack of hydration, lack of water, very big thing, these discs become diminished, smaller and smaller and smaller. It's why our grandparents got shorter, because 25% of the height of our spine is based in the fullness of the discs. So as these get thinner and thinner, we lose height and we have more compression and less free space around the nerve. Now, a bulge is when that disc kind of starts to be pressed outward circumferentially all around. If there's more pressure, we can get a tear where there's a focal point where a single spot pushes out, and that's called the herniation. If that's happening where the nerve exits, now we have pressure directly on or secondarily on the nerve. And so again, by balancing the spine, because if there's an imbalance, putting more pressure on one side, and then if we can keep that and we keep working that, the wound, the rip where the herniation happened in the disc fibers can actually heal. Disc herniations can actually heal.
From my experience in working with so many people over the years as a dentist, and with my in understanding their health and people's need for wellness, people's search for health and wellness, I look at it as a puzzle, and there's so many pieces of the puzzle. And I've really come to understand and believe that one part of the puzzle that has to be followed, that people have to gain an understanding of, is the chiropractic side of it and the chiropractic health.
Well, thank you. And that is an important piece, and I would, parlay that back to you that it's not the only piece. There's so much more that we have to look at. And, a chiropractor today is also going to look at the lifestyle pieces and coach their patients into a healthy lifestyle.
Healthy lifestyles, that's what this show is all about. Dr. Rick, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back. There's a secret about health that's really not a secret. It's that our bodies want to be healthy. Every single one of our cells strives to maintain a balance. Because when you come down to it, health is all about balance. It's about eating the right foods and living the right lifestyle. When it comes to foods, something that not everybody knows is that our bodies try to maintain a certain chemistry, a level of what's called pH, which is a measurement of the acidity and alkalinity in our bodies. Our blood supply has a pH that's on the alkaline side of neutral. So the pH scale goes from 1 to 14. Our blood has a pH of about 7.3. So it's neutral to alkaline. Our bodies need an alkaline environment. And when that's thrown off, when our bodies have an acidic environment that we give it because of the foods we ingest or the place that we live in our environment, what happens is bad things happen. The cells don't function the way they're supposed to function. What happens, for example, with cancers, they thrive in a more acidic environment. So the question is, how do we alkalize our bodies? Is that something that we have to do or think about doing? The answer is yes. Foods that we eat have a tendency to either become alkaline after our bodies break them down or become acidic. It's not necessarily the food itself. Now you can take a lemon. A lemon is very acidic, but when we ingest it and our bodies break it down, it's an alkalizing food because the breakdown products of that lemon create an alkaline environment in our body. So it's important to know that there are some foods that are more alkaline or alkalizing and some foods that are more acid forming. An alkalizing diet is a heavy vegetable diet. It's a diet that has greens in it, a diet that has fruits in it, and vegetables, nuts and grains. Low on dairy products, low on heavy meat products, low on heavy proteins. But it's all about balance. When we realize that the types of foods that we eat and the combination of foods has a big effect on our lives, when we realize that some foods are better for an alkaline environment, then you're onto something. I'm Dr. Gene. Keep smiling. Hi everybody, Dr. Gene here with Journey of 1,000 Smiles. We have with us today Alexis Servaglos of Cardio. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Please tell me about Cardio.
Cardio is a company focused entirely on heart health. So we set out to create a range of devices and a whole platform that helps collect all of the key data about your heart and make it available to you, to your doctor, and to your loved ones.
So many people don't understand the dangers of high blood pressure, and to have an app and the convenience of an app like this, to me, is life-changing, potentially life-changing for so many people. How have you found that the acceptance of the device?
I think you actually hit on something quite important, which is that healthcare is changing. And it used to be that the center of the team that looks after each and every one of us was the doctor. And now I think that the philosophy is changing, and the person at the center of the team is the individual themselves.
Bring it into our own hands, yes.
Correct. We take control, and it's not that doesn't mean that we each as individuals have the expertise. The expertise still resides with the physician, and they have the training and the knowledge. But the person who's responsible should actually be the individual. And in order for that to be possible, you have to put the information in the individual's hands to act on it. So hypertension, you made a very key point, which is that it's a silent killer. We don't really know. If I have high blood pressure one day, I'm very unlikely at that moment to feel the symptoms of the high blood pressure. Right. So if I have some way of knowing it, then I can act on it. I can understand my body better. I can understand the things that help my hypertension, the things that hurt it, and I can actually start to take control as I would like to do.
Explain how would an individual work this? They open up the box and they receive their device. How do they use it?
When you unwrap it, it has magnets, and immediately the device will turn on, and it will communicate with your smartphone. So the smartphone can be an iPhone, iOS. It can be an iPad, it can be an Android phone, okay. It can even be a Kindle Fire. You will download the app onto any of those devices, and that app will connect to the Cardio arm. At that moment, you see a big green button on your device that just says start. You press start, everything else is automatic. So at that point, the Cardio arm will inflate, it will take your blood pressure reading, It will store it in the app, and it will also send it to the cloud. What you do with it after that is up to you. So you can choose to enter your doctor's details into the app, and then they will automatically receive that measurement with no further action from you. My father uses a QuardiArm to monitor his blood pressure. He lives in Greece. And every time he takes a blood pressure reading in Greece, I'm sitting here in San Francisco, my watch sends me a notification.
That's amazing.
And so it's really family. It's not digital. It's nothing like that. This is me as his son, making sure he's healthy. He actually tells me that he takes readings because he knows I'm looking. And so he's looking after himself because he knows I want him to.
And I bet it makes him take readings more often than he normally would have.
It does. It does. He knows he's got a responsibility, if you like, to me to look after himself. And that's simply just our family relationship being expressed through these means.
As a dentist, we often take our patients' blood pressures. This is probably the best device that I could think of because it not only is visual, it's there, it's simple to use, but it also acclimates a patient towards this process on their own, which is important for them to do on an everyday basis.
Well, one of the a good example of how to look at this is an airliner that crosses the ocean is taking hundreds of thousands of measurements and beaming them home through sensors all over it so that the engineers can make sure it's going to fly well. So in one flight, which may last 10 hours, it takes a few 100,000 measurements. Mm-hmm. An individual living here in the United States probably gets 10 numbers measured a year for themselves. That's extraordinary. We're far more complex machines than an airliner. So to create that data, then to understand it, actually puts us in control.
If I'm using this at home, I can have an arrangement with my physician where the data can be sent to them and they can actually have my history and
Correct.
Evaluate me from a distance.
Absolutely. Now, what does that mean? So there's a patient side to this and there's a medical community side. On the medical community side, there are, I think the number is 375 million doctor visits a year in the US, just for routine measurement of blood pressure that do not result in an abnormal measurement. So imagine, an average doctor visit costs anywhere between $50 and $100. Imagine the amount of money that is being wasted on those 375 million visits for something that you could do at home.
There's so many valuable aspects to this because to me, the biggest thing for everyone is to take ownership of their own health, health and well-being in every way. And it extends, beyond diet and beyond habits like smoking and things like that. It's actions that we do and that we take to monitor our health that are quantifiable. And this brings it home. It brings it home in a very, very strong way. And I want to thank you so much for being my guest, for sharing this information. It's something that I hope so many people see and hear about and learn about and use because it is key. It is a silent killer, and this is something that really goes to the core of the matter. I was going to say to the heart of the matter. It goes to the core of the matter and solves a problem in so many different ways. So I thank you for your dedication to this. I thank you for what you're bringing and what your company's bringing and for being on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting us. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure. A few weeks ago, I had a chance to meet and cook with Dr. Russ Landau. Russ is a doctor of physical therapy, but that's not what interested me about Russ. I was interested in how he lost over 200 pounds and kept it off. Russ told me about how, as a kid in school, he was so heavy, he was bullied often. But that wasn't enough to make him change his eating habits. It wasn't until his son wanted to go kayaking that he took his health seriously. Russ, quite frankly, was too fat to get into his kayak. At 36 years old, he was 410 pounds, and he was on a low-fat diet. He knew something had to change. Through his research, he learned that a whole food, plant-based diet could make significant positive changes in heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and other horrible diseases. And he doesn't just eat this way, he helps others eat this way too.
One of the things that I did is I transitioned to a whole food, plant-based diet. And I did that completely by accident. And the way that happened was I started to study what was called volumetrics. How much food could I eat for the least amount of calories?
Okay.
Okay? And it turns out that you can eat a lot of fruits and vegetables for a very low amount of calories. So I could get this great big volume of food, all this spinach, right? And let's say this whole thing of spinach might be 75 calories. So it would be hard for me to accidentally overeat 200 calories because it would be like 6 pounds of spinach.
Okay.
All right. So I started following this volumetrics plan. And when I started to realize that it was mostly fruits and vegetables, I said, well, let me do this. Let me fill up on my fruits and vegetables first, and then I can have all my animal products and everything else later, right? So I would front load my meals with the low calorie density foods.
Okay.
And then what would happen is I was full. So I didn't
need them.
I didn't eat the animal products. I was just, they literally fell off my plate until one day my wife at the time said, I'm not cooking meat for you anymore, you don't eat it. So I realized at that moment, oh my God, I'm a vegetarian. Like, what's my mother gonna say?
Well, you had your own health issues, didn't you?
Well, I was diabetic, and my father had his first heart attack at 50.
50.
And I was 36, and I knew I was looking down the barrel of that gun, right? My doctor was worried. I had sleep apnea. I was literally sick just all the time. And of course, that reversed. And after I lost the weight, went to a whole food plant-based diet. You know, a lot of people ask me questions like, you know, don't you feel weak? Where do you get your protein? So to prove them wrong, I got in my kayak one day in Montauk, and I kayaked the circumference of Long Island.
Entire island.
Well, 270 miles. I just kept paddling. I was like a Forrest Gump.
That's a lot of kayaking.
Yeah, it was a lot of kayaking. So I just kept paddling until I got back to Montauk. So I proved that you don't need meat to be an athlete. Like, you can do some pretty incredible things. And I went to all my meat-eating friends, and I said, so want to come with me when I go again? Right. And nobody could do it. Just to be clear, you might want to know what a whole food plant-based diet is.
Tell me.
Okay. It differs from a vegan diet. See, vegans can eat all the processed food they want. It just needs to be devoid of animal products. We take it one step further. What we say is that you should be eating food in as close to its natural state as possible. So this is our Mali stew, and we just started with the sweet potato because that's sort of the cornerstone ingredients. I've already portioned out the spinach.
Okay.
And then we're going to be ready to put it in our electric pressure cooker.
Okay.
Now, the cool thing about these pressure cookers is they're for people who forget to put things in their crock pot in the morning.
Okay.
So our meals, which are normally designed for a crock pot, can be cooked in 5 or 6 hours in your crock pot. But in this thing, they'll go 20 minutes and we'll have lunch. So since we want to have lunch, we'll put it in here.
Put it in there.
We'll start with the onions, for no particular reason. And if I could trouble you to get me the sweet potato.
There you go.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Excellent. And tell you what, I'm going to wrestle with this peanut butter. If you wouldn't mind opening the 2 pouches of black beans. I'm just going to show the black beans. These are very special. We don't use canned beans. We use pouch beans. Okay, so we got beans. So this is peanut butter. This is a West African stew. We call it Mali stew because that's a country in West Africa. Don't worry, I had to look it up too. And so that's a seasoning blend. In this particular recipe, I put a little dried vegetable bouillon, which is all organic,
Okay.
a little coriander, and some ginger. Now we're going to go with the garlic.
The aromas are strong.
Yeah,
I
right?
love it. I love it.
Well, you know, it's been very difficult to introduce the spices and the herbs that we use to the American palate because our palate has been dulled down by salt, fat,
Sugar.
and sugar. You got it. And if you look in the average American's pantry, it's getting better, but if you look in their pantry, that's all they have. Salt and pepper is their entire spice rack. We have over 50 different varieties of herbs and spices. We use them all. And we have to be very careful when we use them because we need to help people evolve their palates. Because it is possible.
Which is a difficult thing to do.
It's a difficult thing to do, but when you do it, the health benefits are amazing because not only are you eliminating the problems that you get from salt, fat, and sugar, okay, you're eliminating those, but you're adding the health benefits of all these herbs and spices because many of these herbs and spices have healing properties to them. So that's really important. Now we're going to get some organic peas, organic corn,
Okay.
organic quinoa. This happens to be a
I love
tricolor.
quinoa.
You do?
I love quinoa.
Do you remember when you didn't even know what it was?
I
do.
Yes. Quinoa?
I do. I remember.
Yes.
Okay, and then some diced tomatoes. Okay. Put some water in here. So you see how easy it was for us to put together this recipe?
Not a problem.
No, right? Really easy. So imagine you get home and you don't know what you want to do for dinner. You want to eat more whole food, plant-based. Add all the ingredients to either your crock pot, or we recommend these electric pressure cookers because we know that everybody runs out of time. And you just simply put all the ingredients in the pot and turn it on.
So we're all finished.
Yeah, you ready to eat?
I'm ready to eat.
Okay, so what happened is this device pressurized, and it cooked under pressure, so it took a lot less time. And normally a 5-hour crock pot meal, this took about a half an hour, which is a little longer than normal because I put a lot of food in here because I'm really hungry. And that's the beautiful thing about a whole food plant-based diet is you can eat a lot of food and you don't have to worry about counting calories or anything like that.
Look at that.
So yeah, that's what we got going right here, and we're going to serve it on a bed of spinach. I'm going to put the spinach down. We're going to make a little. I'm going to reach in there. We're going to get a nice big scoop of Mali stew for you.
That is really good.
You think so?
Really good.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Really good. Taste the spices all come out.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And there's a big mix of spices. I taste sweet. Taste a little bit
That's
of
the coriander.
Yeah, I taste
right?
a little bit of
ginger.
A little bit of a bite, like a little.
That's the ginger.
Pinch. Okay. This is delicious.
Glad you like it. You're getting healthier already.
Feel it.
Journey of 1,000 Smiles is brought to you in part by Nature's Answer. Discover Nature's Answer and trust the difference.